think about it, if insects everywhere became extinct, then the animals up from them in the food chain, like frogs, wouldn't be able to eat, and they would become extinct. And then the next animals up from them in the food chain, like birds and badgers, they wouldn't have any food, and so on and so on. Also, the plants need insects, so we should be saving them, not swatting them away or killing them with chemicals. As well as trying to persuade governments to take action, we can all make positive changes to help mend the chain and encourage biodiversity in our local area. For example, you can make food choices that help biodiversity by eating locally grown organic fruit and vegetables wherever possible, and trying to reduce the amount of meat in your diet. If you have a garden, you can grow different types of plants, including edible ones. This will both increase the biodiversity of your garden and encourage a variety of insects. There is a lot of information online where you can find out more about how you can encourage biodiversity in your everyday life. I am now going to read a poem I have written called Silence. It is about how hard life would be without a variety of living things. Silence. Where are the birds singing in the trees? They are gone, it is silent. Where are the bees buzzing merrily across the flowers? They are gone, it is silent. Where are the lions roaring proudly in Africa? They are gone, it is silent. Where are the rainforest creatures skulking, swinging, scuttling? They are gone, it is silent. Where are all the animals making their welcome different noises? They are gone, it is silent, forever. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ms. Hawa Sydique, who is a Research and Communications Manager at Cambridge University. Her interests lie in fighting poverty with education, strengthening poor communities, and unlocking opportunities for women. She also has an MBA from her Imperial College Business School in London.
Thank you very much. I firstly just want to start by saying fantastic speeches, Addie, Freya and Nico. My job is done. What else can I add? Honestly, so good. And I also want to echo Nico's thoughts and really reiterate that you can solve the world's biggest challenges. You're not too small, you're not too young. Every voice counts and every action counts. So my name is Hawa. I work for the University of Cambridge, and I'll explain a little bit more about my job in a while. I'm very grateful for you inviting me to speak today, and I'm really looking forward to hearing more of your thoughts. And I've already heard a lot of what you've said, and I'm learning. As Nico said, this talk will be largely around the SDG 15, the Sustainable Development Goal 15. So a healthy life on land is essential for our life on this planet. We're all part of the planet's ecosystem, but we have also caused quite a lot of damage to it through deforestation, loss of natural habitats, and land degradation. Promoting a sustainable use of our ecosystem and preserving biodiversity is the key to the survival of mankind. I'm going to give you a little bit of background on the SDGs. Some of you may know this very well, so forgive me if I'm repeating information that you know. On the 25th of September 2015, leaders from 193 member states of the United Nations met to discuss the world's problems and decide on a plan to tackle them. These are called the plan for the 17 SDG goals. The three big aims of the SDGs are that we fight inequality, injustice, and end extreme poverty and tackle climate change. So the SDG 15 is to sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, halt and reverse land degradation, and halt biodiversity loss. Now that's really technical, I think, so I'm going to break it down a little bit. But really, my main message today is that everyone, everywhere, has a part to play in the SDGs and in general with saving and conserving nature. So nature is absolutely critical to our survival. We've said it, Nico said it, Freya said it, Addy said it today. Nature provides us with our oxygen, regulates our weather patterns, pollinates our crops, and produces our food. 1.6 billion people are dependent on forests, and 80% of animals, plants, and insects live in forests. But our world is under increasing pressure, and wildlife and nature is being squeezed and squeezed and squeezed into an ever smaller corner of the planet. Around 1 million animal and plant species are threatened with extinction. So we really need massive changes to restore and to protect nature. The health of the ecosystems on which we and other species depend is deteriorating quite rapidly and affecting the very foundations of our economies, our livelihoods, food security, health, and the quality of life worldwide. Forests are very important. They cover 1/3 of all land on Earth and are a vital part of our global ecosystem. And they play a massive and major role in fighting climate change. They absorb 2.6 billion tons of carbon dioxide. It's difficult to get your head around just how big that is, but it's 1/3 of the burning of fossil fuels. 1 billion women depend on forests for their livelihoods as well, supporting their families and supporting their communities. And their children benefit from well-managed forests as wood and non-wood products create income to send children to school. So let's just have a think about what the real scale of the problem is here. If we've got 1/3 of the world's population that are dependent directly on agriculture for living, but yet every single year millions of hectares of land are being lost due to drought and desertification, which is a tough word to say, I'll say that myself. Basically, that's when fertile land becomes desert. We're in trouble. And I haven't really even spoken about animals in my speech. 8% of known animal species are extinct, and another 22% are at risk of extinction. Illegal poaching and trafficking of wildlife continues to be a huge problem. And I really didn't think I could have this talk today without speaking about the particular situation that we're in today with COVID-19. And we are really living in unprecedented times with COVID-19. Many of you will not have returned to school yet and might feel a little uncertain about the immediate future. It is the biggest emergency that we are facing at the moment, and we do have to focus on that emergency. But as we recover from the crisis, and we are recovering from the crisis, we have got to remain optimistic. Countries must keep their sustainable development goals and the climate commitments that they made in focus and not lose all of the work that they did and hold on to all of those past gains. The health of our planet really plays an important role in the emergence of these zoonotic diseases. And a zoonotic disease is a disease that passes between an animal and a human. And we don't really know where COVID-19 really originated from yet. But the more we invade our already very fragile ecosystems, we bring humans into ever greater contact with wildlife, enabling viruses in wildlife to spill over into livestock and into humans, increasing the risk of disease. But I really want to stop talking about the negative stuff right now, because we've already heard about lots of ways in which we can make a difference and we can do things to change the world. My main point would be not to forget your 3 R's: to reduce, to reuse, and to recycle. All this helps to cut down the amount of waste that we throw away. We can then conserve natural resources and eliminate landfill space and energy. If we can, let's compost food scraps and reduce climate impact whilst also recycling nutrients. Reduce your use of paper again, I would say, if you can. Avoid printing, and if you have an electronic device, a phone or your parents' phone or iPad, perhaps you can use that instead of using too much paper. We don't need bank statements, we don't need till receipts, we don't need plastic bags. We can reuse all of our plastic bags. And I think this time during the COVID crisis and this pandemic, we've got a real chance to stop, stand still and have a think about how we lead our lives. And we don't have to be on this merry-go-round and on this roller coaster always. I think we've all shown that we can survive by standing still and thinking. So I work at the University of Cambridge, and my team is called CRI, so the Conservation Research Institute. We're based right in the middle of Cambridge, just by the Whale Museum. Have you been to the Whale Museum? Put your hand up if you've been to the Whale Museum. And we work in a building called the David Attenborough building. It's phenomenal. Next time, when everything opens up, if you want to have a tour of the building, drop me an email. I'm very, very happy to show you around anytime. Just let me know when we're all back. And I work in what's called an interdisciplinary team, which means basically different departments all sit in one team. So if you imagine your school and you've got English, maths, science, music, art, all sitting in one team, you've got an interdisciplinary team. And the benefit to that is that you get to hear what other people are talking about and what other people are working on. And then your research can become much broader and much more diverse, which is the way to solve the world's biggest crisis. So I want to just end on one thing that I would love you to do between now and Friday. So it's just a short little project. This Friday, the 5th of June, is World Environment Day. It's the United Nations Day for encouraging worldwide awareness and action to protect our environment. And the theme this year is celebrating biodiversity. So between today and Friday, tell everyone you know about World Environment Day. Some people's eyes will glaze over and won't be too interested, but some people will be interested, and some people will never have heard of World Environment Day. And these little small acts really do build a global voice. And by becoming part of your local and global communities, you become really vital global citizens who are passionate about caring for others and for our world. And that is the massive difference that you can make. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Dr. Iain Webb, who is a Cambridge City Greenways project officer. He is a local wildlife expert and works for the Wildlife Trust across Cambridgeshire, Bedfordshire and Northamptonshire.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon and good morning to you all. Thank you very much for the invitation to be here. I'm honoured to be here speaking to so many wonderful people on such a valuable and important subject. I work for the local Wildlife Trust, and my role is Community Conservation Officer. So I go out telling people how fantastic nature and the wildlife is in and around Cambridge. You know, talking about these SDG 15s, talking about forests and mountains and desertification and wetlands, we don't really have any of those things in Cambridge, which doesn't negate the value of the habitats and the wildlife in Cambridge, not one bit at all. And I'd just like to sort of reiterate and talk about Hawa repeating her need to just tell people about how wonderful nature is, and that is my job. Unfortunately, I haven't been doing it for 10 weeks. Such a beautiful spring, so much wildlife about, and I haven't been able to share my love of nature to people, with people. And with that, the importance of a healthy natural environment around us is key. So I'm loving talk. Can I just talk for an hour or two, please? at you about wildlife and how fantastic it is, but you know that already. And so I'm really wanting to reiterate the